can take as much as you want. Yeah.
So it's on you to grab him whenever you're ready.
Yeah, this is freaking me out right now. This is every outreach person's nightmare.
Oh no.
It happened to Joe one time.
A little bit of tape and falling.
Yeah.
All right.
My God.
I need some action.
Yeah, I know, right?
So I'm going to re-ask the question.
Yeah. What's up?
I'm here with the mayor as his guest.
Yeah, nice.
So you're saying this many people are going to speak? Oh, just right here, so
Yeah.
we can be on the edge.
It fell once. I think I'm getting better.
Okay.
I don't know if there is any. Did you already do the assist? Ah, there it
Okay,
goes
here.
again.
No. Here. We'll take that clip right there.
So this is channel 2. This is the microphone where he's coming to sign the
And
bill.
clip it right in the middle.
Check. And this is the microphone that's on the podium. Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
I don't know if that helped.
Because you should have grabbed that.
Do you feel like if you stood with
How
it?
about you go there so you can see? Yeah. So I'm gonna put this on mute.
Thank you.
Yes, so that way.
I don't know. You put this into existence. I can't have something on such a historic day. It's just a bad omen.
So all you gotta do is just press this to turn green.
And that's when it's good.
Yes. Right now, orange is mute.
Orange is mute.
Yes.
Hold once.
Yeah. No, just press
One
it real
tap,
quick.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there we go. To pay for these things. Yes. Needs some care. Oh my God. These are like 6 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me when to start.
Yep, grab a seat.
Good afternoon, everyone. If we could take some seats, that would be great. Good afternoon, everyone. If we could take some seats, that'd be really great. The seats here in the middle are for speakers. All 6 of these seats are for speakers. So please take a seat. We'll get started shortly. All right. So it's so nice to see everyone on this beautiful sunny day. This morning I was kind of worried, a little bit of rain walking my dogs, but it's so nice to see the sun. I'm Alan Eckberg, the mayor of the city of Tukwila. Welcome to the Tukwila Community Center on behalf of the city council. And we do have one of our city council representatives here, Ms. Kate Crowler, council president. I have a few introductory remarks, then we'll turn it over to the governor. So first off, I'd like to welcome everyone again to the city of Tukwila. It's so nice to see some of us here today, and I know we have some virtual members with us as well. So thank you for being part of this audience and presence here. The city of Tukwila welcomes you, and as mayor of the city of Tukwila, it's a blessing to be here. As we begin our gathering, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge, before the event occurs, that we are in the city of Tukwila and we do a land acknowledgement in recognition of Native Americans. So allow me to do that quickly. The city of Tukwila is located on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people. We acknowledge their continuing connections to land, waters, and culture. We pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and ongoing. It is with honor to be here with all of you here today. Allow me to welcome the Governor of the state of Washington, Governor Jay Inslee. Governor?
Hey, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you. Mr. Mayor, thanks for your hosting this. It's always sunny in Tukwila. And we appreciate what a beautiful site you have here. We know you got one of the most diverse cities in America. Thanks for your leadership. And this is a great day for the sun to shine on the state of Washington, because we know that, as Justice Potter Stewart said at one point, fairness is what justice really is. And today we are taking a big stride on the arc of the moral universe towards a more just Washington state. It is a big stride to more justice by overturning the upside down tax system, which has been so unfair to Washingtonians for so many decades. Isn't it a great thing that we mark a day of justice in Tukwila, Washington? I'm happy about this. We know that our low-income working people in the state of Washington for years have paid 4 or 5 times more as a percentage of their income than the wealthiest 2% amongst us. That is not the values of the state of Washington. We believe we have the most beautiful state in the United States, geologically and biologically, and now legally, by bringing a great measure of justice to our fair state. The sun is out and justice is out in the state of Washington, and I want to congratulate everyone who's been working on this for some time. Senate Bill 5096 is a capital gains excise tax on extraordinary profits that will impact a very small number of Washingtonians. And the revenue will go to the Working Families Tax Credit and the Fair Start for Kids Act. What could be more just than that type of step forward for the state? The Working Families Tax Credit, as we know, will ensure that Washington families who are struggling to make ends meet will have a little extra money in their pockets. This is a modest financial boost for about 500,000 Washington families, but it will have a far-reaching ripple effect through the Washington state economy. Because if you want to have consumers in your society, you need somebody with $2 in their pocket. And we're putting money in the pockets of people who are going to be consumers, who are going to go out and buy good products made in the state of Washington. And finally, by funding the Working Families Tax Credit, we are fulfilling a promise made by the legislature in 2008. It was passed but not funded. Any day we fulfill a promise is a good day. This capital gains excise tax certainly has been a long time coming. It was first proposed by the Washington State Budget and Policy Center in 2011. I first proposed a capital gains tax back in 2014. I look a lot different than when I first proposed the capital gains tax. And I know so many individuals, many of them are here today in groups, have been fighting for both proposals for a long time. One person who fought so hard for the Working Families Tax Credit is our great friend, the late Tony Lee. And his spirit is amongst us today. Tony was an advocate. Tony was a constant advocate for working families for decades in the state of Washington. And I never met Tony Lee one time in my career, in 25 years of public life, that I was not inspired, because this was a man vested with justice in his heart. And today we are fulfilling that. I can think of nothing better than calling the Working Families Tax Credit, naming it after Tony Lee. He deserves that, and I'm glad we're doing that today. But Tony wasn't alone in this fight. I want to acknowledge just some of the organizations that have worked so hard on these proposals for the Working Families Tax Credit. The Statewide Poverty Action Network, the Washington State Budget and Policy Center, the coalition of more than 40 organizations that includes faith groups, direct service providers, advocates for immigrants and refugees, labor unions, and economic justice advocates, Representative Mylin Tai, Representative Noel Frame, Senator Wynn, Senator June Robinson, and many, many others. Thank you for what you've done. I see John Burbank here has been such a champion, and Larry Brown, and what you guys have done for years. I really appreciate it. and for 5096, the capital gains excise tax that balances our tax code and the more than 65 organizations who spoke out in support of this policy this legislative session, including advocates for child care and early learning investments, economic and racial justice advocates, and the people who would pay the tax who support it to build a brighter future for all of us. All in for Washington and leaders in communities of color like the Washington Black Lives Matter Alliance and One America, the Invest in Washington Now group, Representative Frame, Speaker Lori Jenkins, Andy Billick, and of course June Robinson, who really used her acumen to get this across the finish line. We want to thank you for all the work you've done. I hope you day a beautiful day of justice and sunshine in the state of Washington. And with that, I want to introduce Representative Mylin Tai, who's been such a champ in this victory. Representative.
Oh boy, I honestly promised my daughter that I will not cry. And Governor Inslee, your words put me in a different place of emotion, so thank you for that. So I'm gonna stick with the script. Otherwise, it's gonna go bad. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all of you who take the time to celebrate today. Is only the first step, the beginning of what our Washington state could be. Today is a victory for collective hope, for lifting people up, and for fixing the upside-down tax code. People of color and low-income workers have always kept our communities, our businesses strong. They have always been our backbone. Yet, many still struggle to make ends meet. I was told that when you work hard, you will succeed in this promised land. I took that to heart the first 20 years since my family came here. I've learned in the last 10 years that one can work really hard until their last breath. Yet, the best they can do is to survive. The strength of our community, the strength of a state, the strength of a nation lies in its people. When people thrive, we thrive. There's a power in collective collaboration. There's a power in recognizing the talents and values in each and every individual in our society. When we set policies so that those who work to build their future will not only survive, but thrive, that is how we move forward. The working family tax exemption is a promise to people like my parents who came to Washington as refugees, took any low-paying job they can find, and diligently pay their taxes long before they became U.S. citizens. It's a promise to low-income families, people with disabilities, students, survivors of domestic violence, and for immigrants and refugees arriving here with nothing, only to be unfairly excluded from stimulus program, federal tax credits that would give them stability to build their new lives. It is our commitment to everyone deserve the minimum to be happy and healthy, and to work toward financial stability, and to see their children fulfill their full potentials. Seeing this legislation become law, my heart is full of joy for our community, for hardworking families, for all immigrants and refugees who cross the oceans and borders, for those who dare to dream. My heart is full of gratitude for every supporter, every advocate. I see you. And you, Nick. Nice new haircut. Every leader, Representative Frame, Representative San, thank you for being my ally and partners, who have put so much effort and energy in this legislation for more than a decade long. And today, when Governor Inslee signed a cross-substitute House Bill 1297, we honor our working individuals and families with the promise that we leave no one behind, that we strive to do better as policymakers worthy of their trust, and that we are committed to learning from the past so that we can build a more equitable future together. Thank you. And with great pleasure, I'd like to introduce Representative Noel Frame to the podium.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. The legislation the governor is signing into law today represents two gigantic steps forward to ensuring that Washington State has an economy and a tax code that works for everyone. As the governor said, the Washington State, it is a great place to live, work, and play. We are consistently ranked #1 among states for many reasons, including our strong economy, education, and our fiscal stability. We've long been an economic and social leader on a global stage with homegrown world-class companies and cutting-edge social policy like marriage equality and $15 minimum wage that have really been a model for the rest of the nation. But for too long, we've had a blemish on this record, namely an economy and a tax code that simply doesn't work for everyone. That strong economy and fiscal stability that gives us such high marks has come at a price, and that price has been the working people of Washington State. You know, the COVID-19 pandemic revealed those inequities in a really dramatic way. And so while Washington State's economy has bounced back and our related state revenues have bounced back, our own economic forecast in March showed a full quarter of Washingtonians couldn't cover their basic expenses. And we know a year into the pandemic, we've permanently lost 23% of our small businesses. So despite being a trendsetter on innovation and social progress, we have built a tax code where working families are hit the hardest in taxes while the wealthiest pay the least. That inequity in who is funding our community's collective priorities, as the governor said, is simply out of step with our Washington State values. And I am so proud to say that today marks the beginning of the end of that inequity. With signing this new capital gains excise tax into law, we are finally asking the wealthiest among us to pay their fair share. We are asking wealthy Washingtonians, including literally some of the wealthiest people in the world, to share more equitably in the responsibility of funding our state's paramount duty to provide an education for our children, starting with our earliest learners. And I do want to Representative send a huge acknowledgement for your work on the Fair Start for Kids Act. You know, this last legislative session, as we considered our work of economic recovery, we asked ourselves, who should pay? Should it be the people who have lost their jobs and their health care and are struggling to keep a roof over their head or food on the table? Or should we ask the wealthiest among us, including folks who have increased their wealth by $151 billion during the pandemic alone, should we ask them to pay? I'm so excited to say that with the signing of this expanded working families tax rebate led by the incredible Representative Neelan Tai, we are saying affirmatively, it's time that the working people of Washington State got a break. Today we are saying to our working families whose economic well-being is so critical to our overarching economic recovery, we're going to ask you to pay a little bit less. And we're going to ask that you don't have to shoulder so much of the responsibility. As we take on the hard work of rebalancing the state's upside-down tax code, these two policies together help take us in the right direction. The passage of the capital gains excise tax and the expanded working families tax rebate are a first step, but a very critical component of a broader effort to reform, restructure, and reimagine our Washington State's tax code so that it works for everyone, particularly Washington State's working families. Thank you so much for all of your work over more than a decade for bringing us here today. You should all be acknowledged. You should all be speaking. We are grateful to each and every one of you today. And to you, Governor, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I am delighted to introduce one of those critical partners in arms, Misha Werschel from the Washington State Budget and Policy Center, who's been a great partner to all of us. Misha, you're up.
Good afternoon, friends. It's so full to be here with you, celebrating this historic day. Like you all, I love Washington State. I love the people, I love our communities, and I love how we together tackle tough challenges and believe in and fight for a better future. As Representative Frame said, in order to realize that better future, we must reimagine our state tax code into a tool for justice, not a tax code that continues to deepen economic and racial injustices. And for far, far too long in Washington State, we have paid for public goods like schools and parks and community centers by asking those with the very least to pay the most and allowing the wealthiest Washingtonians to get a special deal. This is such a historic day because we are starting to change that. Together, as you've heard, these two pieces of legislation mean that 500,000 Washingtonians will get cash back into their pockets every single year. And we're going to have the money to pay for new investments in childcare over the long term by asking the wealthiest Washingtonians to pay just a little bit more. These changes are such a critical part of the future that we are building together. These changes will jumpstart our economy by putting money in the pockets of people who need it. Families trying to make ends meet, essential workers, students, teachers, and communities all across Washington State. These changes mean we are starting toward an equitable recovery. I do so appreciate the governor acknowledging Tony Lee. You can see Tony and Angie's picture here, and thank you, Angie, for being here. Tony was an inspiration to many of us, and one of the things that I know about Tony is that he saw the structural inequities, and he was willing to fight so hard to fix them. And I think he would be so proud today of all the advocates here, the advocates who aren't in this room, the community leaders, legislators, elected leaders who have carried that vision forward and made this happen. I want to just close by really celebrating and acknowledging the big, powerful, diverse, and beautiful movement that has worked to pass these two bills. It is so amazing to see folks here today And I also know that there are more advocates joining virtually, folks watching on TVW, and so many people who've been part of this victory, and I want to thank all of them. And I also want to invite you, and I know Representative Frame and Representative Ty are up for this, but to invite you to make these policy changes the beginning of the story of balancing our state tax code and investing in a brighter future and allowing the work to continue. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Governor Inslee. And I'm so excited to introduce Patty Liu.
Good afternoon. My name is Patty Liu, and I'm the proud mom of two wonderful, rambunctious little boys, ages 5 and 2. And I'm a member of Moms Rising, a grassroots advocacy organization that organizes with families across the state in strong support of the Working Families Tax Credit and the capital gains tax. We are thrilled to be here today celebrating both of these monumental victories for children, families, and communities. Our heartfelt thank you to all the advocates across dozens of organizations who worked for over a decade to make these wins possible. A capital gains tax paid only by the ultra-wealthy will generate hundreds of millions of dollars in new protected revenue to invest in childcare, early learning, and education. This is personal for me. Full-time childcare for both my kids costs more than our house and car payments combined. And even with a good job, my salary was just covering that cost. Then when the pandemic hit and our childcare provider closed, I, like many other people, was laid off because I couldn't work full-time due to my new caregiving responsibilities at home. This pandemic didn't cause these problems. It has only laid bare for everyone else to see what parents, what us moms, and particularly moms of color, have long known. The system we have now isn't working, and when childcare doesn't work, neither can we. The difficulty finding and affording quality childcare takes a huge toll on parents, especially when you add it to the high cost of housing, healthcare, and other basic needs. That is why today is a historic day for Washington, especially for Washington families and caregivers. Moms Rising and our members are thrilled and hopeful to see what future lies ahead of our state with the investments made possible by the capital gains tax. Thank you.
Hi everyone. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for being here today and for giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Brenda Holland, and I am a hospitality worker. I have been with my company for 6 years now. When the pandemic hit, I got laid off with most of my coworkers. I remember going through a lot of emotions on what I was going to do. I was most worried about losing my health care insurance because my entire family is insured through me. I say that to say that had I already been receiving this, little bit of extra help, I wouldn't have had to worry too much because I might have had money to buy health insurance for my family. The importance of the health insurance is very personal to me because my husband has a pre-existing condition and he needs to be covered every month for us to be able to afford his medication because we can't afford to pay $1,000 a month for his medication, excuse me. That's why I'm here today to celebrate the signing of this bill, which will be instrumental in helping low-income families like myself so that we won't have to choose between buying food or medication for our loved ones. Although I'm very happy that this bill is finally going to be signed by the governor, it took some wonderful people working on it tirelessly in the background for 13 years to get it to this point. Let's not let another 13 years pass before we help working families and children. This is also just the beginning. We will be back because this marathon will continue. Thank you.
I should have taken my cell phone with me. This is a very close-up picture. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. So, I've signed a lot of bills in my time, but this could be the pinnacle of the greatest joy of the bills that I've signed as governor. And the reason is they respond not just to the circumstances of Washington State, not just to our upside down tax code, but because they respond to the enormous challenge that we face in our society of growing inequality. We know that the dynamics of technological change and globalization are driving tidal waves of inequality in our society. And we know that, as Lincoln said, a house divided cannot stand. An economy divided between the haves and have-nots cannot stand either. And we are today in a state of huge wealth and huge homelessness. And we cannot remain passive and accept a status quo that would allow these twin forces of inequality, of technological advance and globalization, to sweep over our state. It is too precious. We care about justice too much. We refuse to live and accept a society of massive poverty amongst massive wealth. And these two bills are the biggest steps forward in my lifetime to deal with those huge changes. And we hope other states and other communities follow our leadership in the path of the arc of the moral universe. And that's the path we're on, is to advance the arc of the moral universe. So I am very excited to sign these bills. First, House Bill 1297 that provides funding for the working family tax credit. This modest financial boost for about 500,000 Washington families will have far-reaching ripple effects on those families, as well as our state's economies and businesses. I'm honored to name this bill after longtime advocate Tony Lee, a hero of mine and everybody here, who worked tirelessly on behalf of low-income families. Thank you for the bill sponsor, Representative Ty, and all those folks who worked diligently. This one's for Tony and the state of Washington. I'm happy to sign this bill. I'm also signing Senate Bill 5096. This bill creates a capital gains excise tax on extraordinary profits. The funding from the tax will go to fund the Working Families Tax Credit and the Fair Start for Kids Act. By adding a capital gains excise tax, Washington joins 41 other states and the District of Columbia in taxing capital gains. It is estimated that less than 1/4% of all Washingtonians will pay the capital gains tax rate. Thanks to the sponsor, Senator Robinson, and all who've been working on this fair measure, the sun shining again on Washington State, and I'm signing this bill. All right. We'll get this to June. I think we get this today. We'll get this one to June. All right. Be well. Go get vaccinated.
I like the mask. Hey, Governor.
we get the picture with all the legislators and the governor?
Could you help us